Good morning, everybody. Jessica Henry Gray here. I am at the beautiful park, Rocky River area reservation here outside of Cleveland. We are in our fall peak colors and it is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to paint this beautiful tree back here, but I'm also going to use some of this background color and use this stand of trees that's directly behind my head. And I'm going to put together a painting here that I think you'll enjoy, and it's just going to be this gorgeous celebration of fall color and glow and light. So let's jump in. I have all my regular stuff with me today. I will show you here. So I've got an 8x10 gesso panel. You have to forgive the airplanes. I'm right by the Cleveland airport, so we got airplanes flying overhead all the time. I have my Open Box M easel. This is the smaller one. It's an 8x10. This is titanium white, cad yellow medium, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, phthalo green, alizarin crimson, and today I have out some cad yellow light. I have a little bit of linseed oil, my little bucket of odorless mineral spirits here simply to clean my brush and to tone the canvas, and then just an assortment of brushes, mostly flats, 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got a couple of bigger bristles here, and down below, attached to the legs of my easel on a bungee cord, is my roll of paper towels. Now normally I keep a garbage bag. It's a little breezy today, and so I don't want the rustle of the bag flapping in the breeze. It's kind of annoying. It's bad enough with the airplanes flying overhead anyway. So, all right, I'm gonna jump in and I will get going, and I'll show you how, right on canvas, how I'm gonna compose this painting. I got a paper towel in my hand and just gonna tone the canvas first. That gives me a sense of placement, where I'm going with it, and I'm going to tone it mostly with burnt sienna and yellow ochre. I like to tone the canvas with these colors at this time of year because it just really pulls out the fall colors. I do typically tone the canvas this color anyway because burnt sienna is a nice complement to green, which is a predominant color in nature, and so if some of it shows through, it has a really nice feeling on the canvas. Now I didn't start off today with the thumbnail sketch. I normally always do. I wanted to show you, just jumping in today, how I would compose it just right on the canvas. I walked around for quite a while today to find just the right scene. Today I really wanted to celebrate the color, and I also wanted to capture some of that autumn glow, and so I needed a couple of ingredients in place to make that happen. In the scene that I have chosen here, there's a nice dark background behind this beautiful bright pink bush, and so right in front of the bush there's a cottonwood branch kind of hiding and obscuring a little bit of it. It's harder to see off camera, but so I'm going to turn this a little so we stay in the light and you can see. So I've set the camera back a little bit from my easel today so that you can see a little better of my colors, my palette, as well as the scene. So I'm starting out with a smaller brush, a little bit of sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm going to draw right on my canvas. This today to show you it's so easy just to wipe off and start over if you make a mistake. Sometimes we forget our pad of paper, we don't have our drawing means with us, and so I'm going to demonstrate that today. So what I like down here, looking straight down at my scene, if you can kind of see it right in that area, woo, over there. It's hard to point with the camera. There's sort of a tunnel of light, and so this forest comes this way, and this stand of trees is right about in here. So we've got a darker pine in this area, creating sort of a tunnel, and there's a path of shadow right here. This is all foliage, and then in here is that bush. So we're going to bring this over this way and hide some of the bottom of the bush with more foliage, and then this is darker green in here with some trees in this range. So up in here we're going to have the cottonwood branches kind of coming down this way. into the scene over here. Now, if I don't like this, I can always just wipe it off and make it how I want, in what way that I see might fit this best. I wiped it all off because I felt like it was getting a little bit too pinched and crowded into my picture. So I'm going to make everything a little bit smaller. I still want this focal area in here, but I think I'll make the stand of trees over here smaller, giving a little bit more scale to the sky. And then the pine in here. And then that bright pink bush I'll put right about here. But I'm going to give this cottonwood a little bit more importance too. So by making everything just a little bit smaller, I'm able to say, you know, there's a lot more going on. Let's just scale it back and keep what's important in this area a little smaller. So we've got this tunnel of light going on right there, the shadows down this way, the foliage passage in here. And I think that that is going to make a much more interesting painting. So now I'm going to isolate my values a little bit more. So taking my brush, there's a darker tree in here that I want to pull out. And let's give this all a little bit middle tone range, using a bigger brush. And that's going to be a nice tool to set off my this glowing pink bush. Sometimes you have to push the darker passages a little bit more so that you get that glowing effect. There's that pine tree back in that area. And that'll also really do a nice job in creating this tunnel right in here. And then I'll be able to focus on the movement of light of everything as it comes up that way. So I'm working fast because I don't expect this light to stay very consistent. And that's something you want to consider when you are selecting your place to plein air paint, is how much is the light going to change during the time that I'm there. Now behind that stand of trees back there, there's a middle tone range of trees and a backdrop of foliage. So I'm going to just take a little bit of moment here and just darken that into a middle tone. I can come back through and add a whole lot more information, but I do want to get that in place. It's a little too dark for middle tone, so you can just wipe it off. And this is how I would do a sketch too. You've seen me do sketches, and it's pretty much the same means of doing this. So for now, I'm just going to suggest, okay, trees will be in this area, foliage, and we'll let some of this sunlit lawn in the foreground come this way. And then this is all going to just be lit up right in here. So I'll give it a little bit of shadow to show that. And this will be beautiful greens. All right, now I am feeling much better about where I'm going with this design as opposed to what I had in the first place. Okay, so timing is again of the essence. So I'm going to start with the sky and get that beautiful bright blue going. A little bit of ultramarine blue, some white. A little less white than I normally use because the sky is just so brilliant today. I'm gonna have to get some white. People ask all the time, well, did you tone that? Does that wet tone come off on the paint? And it doesn't. If you go a little bit darker than you need and then you wipe it off, that pretty much soaks into the canvas in a pretty good, at a pretty good pace. So it doesn't really come off in your paint or mix in with it. As I get down closer to the tree line, I notice my sky gets a little lighter. So I'm mixing more white in with that. Now, I also noticed too that this stand of trees as it mixes in with the sky behind it. I'm just painting in dabs around some of the trees that are going to be some of the sky. Painting the sky in around the trees, if that makes sense. So while I'm filling in kind of a mundane, cloudless sky, I want to talk a little bit about my workshops. I've got Paris is almost full, but the one in actually France. And so we definitely, would love to start a waiting list, but we have, a few spots left. So if you're interested in that, definitely contact me. Really excited about it. It's going to be next July 20th to the 30th. And then after that, immediately after that, we're going up to Paris for 4 days just to visit the museums. And I'm not charging for that, but you pay for all your own expenses, museum entries and all that. So we'll go to the Louvre and things, Musée d'Orsay, all that. That's going to be truly a fabulous trip of a lifetime. But we also have the workshop in Florida, Destin, Florida, and that one is starting to fill. So if you're interested in that, give me a shout. That one's 4 days, April 22nd to 25th of next year. So, yeah. I know we'll have more on the schedule for next year for workshops, but for now, that's kind of what we've been able to focus on. Okay, I'm going to leave some of these gaps because I know that that's trees. Those are trees in the way. Right now, I'm going to paint that backdrop of color in trees back there. So I'll just use the sky that's existing. Let's take some yellow ochre. And I'm going to move you a little bit closer so that you can see both the background and the sky. A little bit of linseed oil, some yellow ochre. Squinting way down at that, I see some sienna in there. I want to keep it cool and just really suggestive. Because the colors that are going to be in front of it are so much warmer. Maybe even a little alizarin into that. So every now and then I grab some yellow ochre, a little more sienna, a little more alizarin, just to give it a little bit of variety in there. All the while too, while I'm working on some of these passages, I'm keeping an eye on this golden, the beautiful glowing bush. I want to make sure that I don't lose that in the process of painting other things. So I'll be checking up on that every now and then to make sure that we're still on target with where we're going with that. Little alizarin, a little bit of cad yellow, some of these colors back in here. I'm also squinting down at that backdrop of trees back there, and I'm seeing that some of the values back here are quite dark as they get down towards the bottom of the forest. If it gets difficult to see my painting every now and then, it's because a cloud has either drifted over or whatever. So I'm trying to sort of move it so we stay in the light. The trick about being efficient, one of the many tricks about being efficient about plein air painting, is knowing what to leave out. What's important, what you don't need, what you do need. So putting a little bit of greens and yellows back in these trees. I had to move the camera so that you could see a little bit better. Okay, so that looks fine for now. All right, so leaving that as it is. Little white and cad yellow, or excuse me, cad red gives you a really nice fall pink. Go back in there among those little alizarin and white. Some yellow ochre into that. Okay, so that should hopefully set off what I put in front of it very nicely. Now I'm going to take some yellow, and that's cad yellow, slightest touch of phthalo green. I'm going to let this just glow and sort of play along in this area. A little bit of blue with that yellow. As it moves over toward this passage in here, I'll let it get a little darker, a little more bluer, shadowy. All the time squinting down at things to see what I need to do to simplify. And I'll take some of that cad yellow with the cadmium red to really create some of that glowing leaves, just to layer it back that way a little bit more. And I'm looking at these in the as they are layered, trying to pull out what's behind the stand of trees first. Squinting down. And now I'm going to paint back behind in that deep tunnel. I see a nice dark forest back there. Really deep, dark pocket. And a gray tree trunk. A little bit of green as it goes upwards. Okay, so taking some of that white into the green and cad yellow, I'm going to paint the lawn back there. It really creates that feeling of that being a tunnel. Okay. Now I'm going to paint the dark greens that I see up here, layering these pine trees in and around my center here. So like I did when I worked out the beginning stages of the sketch, and I worked out my darkest anchors, I'm going to pull those out again just to make sure that I keep everything in place as I originally planned it. And you can see the sketch that I did on the canvas as my pseudo thumbnail sketch, and how it is still, the values are still there doing their part. As this dark green moves up toward the light, I'm adding a little bit more yellow into it so that it can really have that feeling of glowing movement. A little bit of burnt sienna in with that yellow ochre here. And I haven't forgot about those, but working in layers. You have to really squint down to see what layer to attack first, and working from the background to the foreground. Here we have more of that just clean yellow on the top of these cottonwoods. Just went way down with that. I'm going to take some of that alizarin right into that. Whoops, that's too dark. Paint right over the top. And then I've got another cottonwood stand right here. Get a little bit of that green in there. Wow, those acorns are coming down with gusto. Okay, now what I really wanted to get is that beautiful fall foliage in this stand of trees over here too. So taking a little bit more cadmium red light and incorporating that into the interplay here. The sienna. And I'm not worried about the tree trunks yet. I'll get those in. And a little, let's grab some alizarin. And I can come back in through here with a little bit of blue to capture some of that lacy quality a little bit more that I want more of. Now, in order to make your painting appear to be glowing, you have to have the contrast of not glowing and not super dazzling colors. Otherwise, they'll all stand out and you won't have that feeling of impacted glow. So you have to choose what's going to really be the area that stands out. So here I squint down at that and I see that this foliage over here is a lot darker, which works too because I like to keep the painting more framed in, keep the viewer in the middle. These red leaves are shadowed. Okay. And do I see those over here? Just a little bit. Working my brush up, I'm gonna get that beautiful bush painted, taking cadmium red light. Cadmium yellow. Toward the bottom. Squinting down at that, you can really take the complex and make it a whole lot easier. Some green, just layer that right in front of it and under it. Remember, the sun is hitting this most intense right in this passage in here, so we're going to get that right on the lawn too. Ooh. Getting thicker paint here today. I'll get some of this cottonwood as it's sort of canopying over the top. Okay, yellow ochre. And do some of those peeking in over here too. Bluer, cooler, violet tone shadows as I come across the lawn here. You want to keep the shapes interesting too. I'll have to grab a little bit of that phthalo green into that. Not too much though, phthalo can really get away from you. little bit of grass down here, which is really more yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Oops. We're getting some of that sunlight on these leaves that are fallen back in here. So I want that a little lighter. Yellow ochre, white. And allowing your brush strokes to define the sort of that tabletop surface of the land also gives you that sense of topography. We're going to put some of those anchors that I had back in here that were more value anchors. Just working around this passage a little bit more to tighten it up. Now I'm going to mix burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to get my darkest dark. I'm going to paint in these beautiful rhythmic trees, getting a nice chiseled edge on my brush. Looking at the way they grow, I can turn my brush over every now and then to get a cleaner passage. I'm looking at the way that these have this wonderful sense of rhythm. You don't want to take the dark all the way to the top because as light wraps around an object, it gets more drenched in light and you don't see the same dark all the way up. So it's okay if it mixes with some of that background color. Okay, so I'm going to work on some of these tree branches and I will come back as soon as I have this a little bit tighter and underway. All right, so just to wrap this up, I worked a little bit more off camera on the painting. What I did is I just tightened up some of the foliage. I added a little bit more sky holes, a few more into the trees and around there. I brought in a few more trunks of the trees, creating sort of this rhythmic feeling through this stand of trees, and I'll show you again those. And then I also sort of cleaned up the shape and contour of this bush by adding a little bit more alizarin crimson in and around the foliage to give it sort of that framing, glowing feeling. And then I cleaned up the branches and added a few more sparkles of light just around there, really to drive home the point This is what I'm celebrating. This path right in through here, and everything else is going to support that main thing. What you really want to do when you go out and you do a plein air painting is to take in your scene and find the one thing that really moves you about that scene. It could be, we were looking at the waterfall down below there, and the waterfall was beautiful, the colors were great, but it didn't have that glow that I was looking for today. So find the one thing that you really want to paint. If it's going to be the waterfall, paint just the waterfall and really focus on that. In doing that and isolating those things that you find are truly beautiful, you will create a painting that is easy to follow, easy to understand, and really says something from your heart. If you're going out just to paint a scene for the sake of painting a scene, then that's all it will really reflect. So if you really want that sense of one thing that's truly beautiful, then really focus on that. So again, I just added a little bit more purple into the shadows, keeping this colorful and pretty, but not what it's about. This is what it's all about, and I highlighted the path and made it a little bit more brilliant. So I'll show you again a little bit more about what I'm painting in this direction. So there's the stand of trees, and you can see they go way up, and then right in through, right over here in that passage is where that path is, and I accentuated it a little bit more by making it a little darker in that area and framing it in and really pulling out that glow. All right, you guys, well, that is it, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. And remember, if you do like it, to like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. And again, I'm going to put the links down below for the workshops that we have coming up. Take a look at those, and I hope you enjoy what you see, and I hope to see you at one of my upcoming workshops. So again, Destin, Florida, and France for 2020. All right, you guys, have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.